Good day, and thank you for tuning in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. For all of our new listeners and viewers who are tuning in for the very first time, I'm Pastor Pope, and thank you for allowing us to come into your viewing environment. We are here with you every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, broadcasting live from the FijiWater.com sponsored studio, where you can discuss careers, finances, entrepreneurship. You can discuss marriage, divorce, raising children, blending families. You can discuss dating and relationships, whatever's on your heart, whatever's in your mind. God is concerned about that which concerns you. And that is the reason that we are here with you every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast, which is brought to you daily by Fiji Water, Earth's finest water. You may already know that Fiji water comes from Fiji. However, did you know that it is created by nature? It is untouched by man. It starts as a tropical rainfall which slowly filters through layers of volcanic rock, where the water collects in a natural, sustainable artesian aquifer, where it is bottled right at the source, free from human contact until you unscrew the blue cap. Fiji water, Earth's finest water, will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery, and you'll save money at FijiWater.com. This is not just ordinary water. This is Earth's finest water at FijiWater.com. And for those of you who continue giving on the Give segment of our app at New Life-Delaware, and those of you that have made a weekly or monthly commitment to support the broadcast by giving on the contribution pages of our websites at NewLifeMinistriesInternational.com and NewLifeInternationalCDC.com. And those of you that are using the QR code and the link provided on Facebook and YouTube, we thank all of you for your continued commitment and your support as we fulfill our commitment to God to be here for you in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. I want to remind all of our listeners and viewers that we are Facebook Live, we are YouTube Live. If you go to YouTube and type in Daily Divine Direction, all of our broadcasts are archived in perpetuity. And you can stay connected with us now 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through our internet radio station, WKAP Faith Empowerment Radio, where we play music 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, where you can be encouraged, empowered, and inspired at WKAPfaith.com. And I want to say to all of our listeners and viewers, so first of all, I'm going to respond because I got a lot of communications yesterday from people, many of the listeners and viewers responding to the communication regarding finding it difficult to manage your time and how to get more out of your time. And so I'm going to address that, but I'm going to start with another communication first. I just want to make certain that we stay on course getting through some of our communications, and I will go back to that today because so many of you responded. And I know that people find it difficult managing their time and lifestyle, and so I will address that because I had seen a theme forming, but now all of you are responding from yesterday, so I'll get to that in a moment. But I want to address the communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated you have been making significant changes in business. However, you are not certain that you are able to keep up with the pace. You said it looks good on the surface, although behind the scenes you are struggling. So I wanted to take a moment to address that, and here's what I'm going to say to you. First of all, to God be the glory that you're able to move forward making change. That's called progress, and that's a positive thing. The fact that you feel like you're not able to keep up with the pace, you've got to be mindful of this. First and foremost, you've got to pace yourself. Don't let the work work you. You work the work. So you've got to pace yourself. That's first and foremost. But you have to do that understanding that when you are making changes and you're making progress, the pace is going to quicken. The pace is going to get a little faster because you've added components to the business that perhaps you were unfamiliar with. Perhaps they're just high volume changes. So all of that is normal. And they have a term for that. In the corporate environment, before I became a clergy, it was something that was often talked about, and that is growing pains. But you can have growing pains, whether it's for-profit, non-profit. There are always going to be growing pains. Growth comes with pain. The reality is that we're all going to find it painful as we make progress, because change is occurring in our environment, change is occurring in our habits, change is occurring in our behavior. You're going to be fine. You say you're struggling behind the scenes, and the only reason you're struggling is because you're trying to resist making some changes while you're making change. Some things we're going to identify that we may not be competent in changing, and you've just got to allow it to work itself out. I'm the one who always says you have to stay in prayer. The Bible tells us to pray without ceasing. We have to stay in prayer constantly, that God will guide us through the process of progress, that whatever he's doing, we have to be okay with that. Some things will evolve and drop off because of the evolution itself. But we keep making progress. We keep evolving. So what you want to do is stop struggling behind the scenes. Don't find it necessary to struggle with the process. Allow the process to take you into the progress, and allow the progress to happen. It will happen. And your business will continue to grow. Because at the end of the day, people say adapt or die. Well, it's adapt, grow, and thrive. That's the key. You make the adaptations that you are capable and competent to make. You continue the growth, the progress, and then you thrive as the progress continues. We all understand the importance of growing and making progress and becoming successful. And now, if you've been tuned into the Daily Divine Direction broadcast, you should get a better understanding of what it means to maximize our success and experience the fullness of God, and maximize the fullness of God. And it's important because, that means that we're going to leave society better than when we came in, and that the generations to come will be better than our generation. That should be the goal. That's kingdom building. And so we have to be willing to struggle less and make more progress. We can't keep struggling with progress. Progress is going to happen. It's either going to happen with you, it's going to either happen for you, it's either going to happen with you, or it's going to happen to you. You get to decide, because progress is going to occur. And what we don't want to be is left behind. Your business is changing because it's growing. And so I'm going to encourage you by saying this: just continue to pray that God will guide you, that he'll give you the instruction necessary to continue making progress, and that he'll order your steps. He will tell you exactly where he wants you to go, and that comes in the form of confirmation from others. That comes, first and foremost, comes from the Word of God, because God will show you things. I was looking, and I'm going to take you all through this little journey with me for a moment. I was looking at some reading scripture yesterday, and I was looking at some of the notes that I had made, that God had revealed to me that certain things would occur in 2022. But I saw those last year because of a revelation from something I was reading in the scripture. And so it starts there. But then as it progresses from the scripture, God will send others to confirm a word that he's spoken to you. He will order your steps by confirmation. He will order your steps by revealing to you new things that you didn't really anticipate. You know you're in the midst of the work of making some changes in your business, and the changes that you're making, the reason they're significant, you said significant changes in your business, but the reason that they're significant is because they're progress. You're making progress. And as long as you continue making progress, you know that it's God's will. And the reason that we know it's God's will, because in him we live and move and have our being. Sometimes we don't really think about these scriptures. We just recite them, but we don't really think about what it really means to us. So he said, in him we live, move, and have our being. We're constantly, if we're moving, we're making progress. We're going forward. You don't move to go backwards. You move to go forward. And so consequently, that means you're making progress. That's why it's significant. There are significant changes. You didn't just wake up and say, let me make some changes in my business just because I'm bored. That's not good business. You're making the changes because they're significant in adding to the progress of your business. So to God be the glory for the changes and the progress that you're making. Just don't struggle with it. Pace yourself. Don't let the work work you. You work the work. And continue doing what God has called you to do. Your business is blessed. You've been blessed with a business that is flourishing. It's also thriving. And as you continue to make the changes, you're going to continue thriving and moving forward into the place that God has purposed for your life and for your company. This segment of the broadcast has been brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. So if you are not currently a T-Mobile customer, you may call or text on the T-Mobile call or text line at 267-992-1424. We will move you into our queue so that you may become a T-Mobile customer and experience America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. Taxes and fees are included in your bill, and if you auto pay by attaching a credit card to your account, you will receive a discount on your monthly bill. At T-Mobile, America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers before I get back to the time management that everyone is so focused on right now. One of our listeners and viewers sent in a communication. You have some very high goals that you have set for this year. And it appears that you are not going to complete your goals, which makes it very disappointing for you. Here's my response. I was prayerful about this because the good news is you've set goals for the year. Don't be disappointed by not fulfilling your goals. But here's what you need to know. The year's not over. So you need to be reminded of that. You don't know what God is going to do. Whatever isn't completed by the end of this year, it's God's will that it's not completed. As long as we've done our part, as long as we've gotten up every day, we've awakened every day, we've received the breath of life, we've begun our days with the intent to maximize the hours of the day, the business hours of the day. The year's not over. And even if you don't complete the goals, even if the goals aren't completely met by the end of this year, be comfortable knowing, as long as you put in the work, that is God's way of saying, not right now for some of the goals that you've set. See, the key is that when we set goals, we have to set them high enough that we can't do them just on our own. We have to depend on God to work through us to get it all accomplished. So when you set goals, you've got to set them high. If you accomplish every goal that you set for this year, then your goals weren't set high enough. That's just reality. Now, if you, by the end of the year, accomplish the goals that you've set with maybe a little work still remaining going into the new year, then you've got to say, job well done. You've got to say that to yourself, because you set your goals high enough that you had to work through the year to accomplish them. Now, the year's not over. So we all still have the remainder of this month and an entire quarter left for the year. So the goals should be, don't look at your goals now and say, I can't accomplish them, because you don't know that. You don't know that because there's still 3 months left in the year. All you can do is continue working until the end of the year. Now, your work speaks for itself, so you may still exceed expectation of others without completing all of your goals. Because there may be some residual that has to be completed at the end of the year. Look, I'm going to give you a prime example of that. So from a business perspective, in investment banking, for example, you get paid your annual salary and then you get your bonuses at the end of the quarter. But for the last quarter of the year, you don't get your bonuses throughout the year until 20 days after the quarter ends. So realistically, you have 20 days after the fourth quarter ends before you're going to get your bonus for the year, to wrap up the entire year. Any other deals that have come in, whatever you're doing. 20 days after the fourth quarter ends, there's still work that has to be done to wrap up the fourth quarter. So you've got to know that even if you complete your goals, you still may have some residual to wrap up. Now, from a nonprofit perspective, the taxable year end concludes December 31st. We have time before we send out contribution reports to get them out to donors and sponsors and so forth, because you have to wrap up the fourth quarter after the year ends. So you don't really know. This is why I say you don't really know what God's going to do between now and realistically the next 4 months, because you've got the next quarter and then part of the month of January to wrap up everything from the year. If you say to yourself, I'm disappointed that I'm not going to meet my goals, and you don't even know if you're going to meet your goals yet because the year's not over, you're setting yourself up for failure. Because if you're getting disappointed now, psychologically, you're defeating yourself. You're saying, I don't think I'm going to make it, and so therefore, you may not perform at a high level, you may not work as hard. We talk ourselves out of success because we don't always know what the end result is going to be. But the great thing about God is that He reveals to us what He knows we can handle. He's not going to give us the end. You start with the end in mind. But He's not going to show us the end until the end comes. So you've got to know that this is ever evolving. You continue to work. You continue to make the progress that is needed to be made so that you can continue on the path that God has set before you to get to the place where you experience the fullness of God. Don't be disappointed. The year's not over. This segment of the broadcast has been brought to you by Charles Tyrwhitt, located in London, the UK. They also have stores in New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and at the King of Prussia Mall in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. So if you're in any of those areas, stop in at the retail stores. They have everything a man could possibly need: shirts for men, ties for men, suits for men, and accessories. And if you're not in any of those areas, you can order from Charles Tyrwhitt at ctshirts.com. They will ship and deliver right to your front door in an appropriate period of time. and The White Company, which is also located in London, the UK. They also have a store on Fifth Avenue in New York. So if you're in New York, stop in at the retail store. They have everything you could possibly need: home goods, clothing for men, women, and children. And if you're not in New York, you can order from The White Company at thewhitecompany.com. They too will ship and deliver right to your front door at an appropriate period of time. So I've taken you through, I didn't want to get too far behind on our communications. So I addressed a couple of other communications, and now I'm going to take you back because so many of you have been talking about the topic from yesterday from one of our listeners and viewers regarding time management, managing your time. And you're all saying you find it difficult to manage time. So, we all have busy schedules. And I gave you an example yesterday of my schedule for yesterday. And some of your communications were, well, Pastor, you only gave us until the end of the broadcast. Well, yes, because in the interest of time, I only gave you part of, but I have a full day schedule. And if you don't schedule your day will schedule you. So you've got to have a schedule. And it's funny, I was telling the students, some middle school students today at the Achievers Academy, when I went to the Achievers Academy this morning, I told them, I said, you've got to have a schedule for your entire day. And I shared with them, this is something I tell adults, you've got to have a daily schedule. So every day is not going to look exactly the same. Now, I shared with all of you yesterday's schedule leading up to the broadcast. The schedule today didn't alter much, except I was actually in a classroom yesterday with middle school students as opposed to maybe high school students. But the reality is the time schedule may fluctuate on day to day, but still, come 11:30, I have to be in place for preparing production for the broadcast. You know what I'm doing from 11:30 until 1:30. I told you 11:30 is production, 12:30 the broadcast goes live, 1 o'clock the broadcast ends, there's post-production till 1:30, and then, today, I will tell you, I have lunch scheduled from 1:30 until 2:30. And then at 2:30, I know that I've got a conference call scheduled from 2:30 to 3:30. From 3:30 to 4:30, I'm going to review what we go over in that conference call. And then I have something to wrap up with our tour bus company for a college tour that's going to be coming up. And then from 5 until 8, I will be studying, I will be doing some writing. And then from 8 until 9, I've got to look at downloading some music for the radio station for WKAPfaith.com. And then I have to be in bed at 9:30. And the reason I have to be in bed at 9:30 is because I have to be up, the day has to start all over again. But I say all of that to say there has to be a schedule. You've got to schedule out every hour of your day. There can be no waste of time because, and I know you say, well, Pastor, if I don't take a moment to just rejuvenate my mind, I'm going to burn myself out. No, you're not, but that's okay. If you want to, read an article, that's part of your time management. It's okay. We all have things that we want to research and learn. As long as we're learning something, that's a benefit. As long as we're doing something productive, that's a benefit. But what we don't want to do is we don't want the time creeps to come in. We don't want to waste time sitting there daydreaming about nothing or thinking about what we're going to do on the weekends. The weekend's not here yet. Plan it out. Put it on your calendar. Make sure you have it timed out. And then for the weekend, you should be doing that on Sunday for the whole week. And then review your agenda. At the end of the day, as I said, I know that I need to be in bed at 9:30 tonight because I know that the alarm's going to go off in the morning. I know that. So I'm not going to waste time doing things that are not going to be productive, that are not going to allow me to maximize the very next day. Because if God gives me the breath of life in the morning, I've got a full day tomorrow also. So we just have to make certain that every minute of every hour is put to good use. Every hour of every day is maximized. Every day we've completed what was a priority for the day. Now you may have to carry some things over tomorrow. That's okay. So, Tuesdays I try to make sure that I download whatever music needs to be downloaded to be uploaded tomorrow for the radio station. That's on my calendars for Tuesdays. Because it's essentially a two-day process. Download on Tuesdays, upload on Wednesday evenings. There are moving parts to all of our lives. And every one of us has a busy schedule. My schedule is no busier than anyone else's, and you know why? Because we all have the same number of hours in the day. But if you're not filling up your hours, I may be busier than you. If you're filling up every hour, and of course I try to do everything in 2-hour increments. Now I know you might say, well, Pastor, you said from 5 to 8 you're going to read, and from 8 to 9:30. And the reason I'm shutting it down to 9:30 is because I know that I need to be in bed by 9:30. And so that's going to be a half hour earlier than I normally, would for that segment of business. 2 hours. I do everything in 2-hour increments except study my scriptures and read and pray and meditate on the scripture, because that's a 3-hour. That's my tithe to God every day. Is to get in 3 hours of study time. But everything else is on a 2-hour regimen. Now here's the flip side to that. I only dedicate an hour to working out. So my body, mind, and spirit, that's 4 hours. Study, work out an hour. This is, we've got to make certain that we schedule everything. Now, I want everyone to know how important it is to really manage our time daily. And if you find that difficult, you've just got to get an agenda book and you've got to write everything down. I know we do a lot of things electronically. My daughter had a whole conversation with me yesterday evening about moving some things onto an electronic file as opposed to paper file. And I said to her, you know what, that's a good idea. I will make some changes, but some of that's not going to happen, because I know that when I write things down, I take mental ownership of them. So you got to know yourself also. But she gave me some good insight, and as a millennial, they're better at some things than we are, and thank God for that, because we want to leave our society better than when we came in. But she had a whole conversation with me while we were together yesterday evening about how I could make some improvements in managing all of the components, because we've got a lot of components going on in our church, our ministry, our community development corporation, but at the end of the day, it still requires us to manage our time. And she knows I'm committed to being effective and efficient, so that's the reason she gave me those suggestions. I will confess, I've got some learning to do, but thank God for the next generation. Let's just make certain that we use every hour of every day to fulfill what God has purposed for our lives. That's the fear of the Lord, is fear of failing to fulfill his will in our lives. 3D, today's Daily Divine Direction broadcast has been brought to you by Fiji Water. A taste of paradise will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery, and you'll save money at FijiWater.com. May God bless you today. May God keep his face turned towards you. May God give you peace that surpasses all understanding. Have a great day today. I look forward to being in your viewing environment tomorrow. Remember, we are Facebook Live. We are YouTube Live. Go to YouTube, Daily Divine Direction broadcast. Well, actually, it's just Daily Divine Direction. All of the broadcasts are archived in perpetuity